Welcome to our group meeting for the container security group. First thing I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to check in and see if there are any outstanding items that would be worth reviewing and clarifying synchronously related to the project level DAST scan execution policies epic. I know we've had a lot of discussion in the issues, which has been great to have that asynchronous and to have it documented. Just wanted to see if anything would be useful to clarify synchronously. Alan's not here. Does anyone want to vocalize his question?
I can do that. He was asking, I believe, I didn't click on the note, but based on your answers, asking about the options of storing the policy as a YAML file versus database.
So yeah, I took a look at that, and I want to emphasize here that I do feel like both of those satisfy the product requirements that are in the Epic. So, although I have an opinion that I'll express here in a moment, please, feel free to take on either one of them. Again, they both satisfy the customer requirements. I think there are pros and cons to both, and there could be a solution there either way. That being said, I do have a strong preference for the first one, which is to put it in the database. Granted, I know working with the database can be a little bit of a pain. It's been a bottleneck for development in the past, but I do feel like that will provide a much cleaner user experience because they won't have to go in and select a separate security orchestration policy project. There's a very similar workflow for GitLab Managed Apps version 2, where you go and pick a cluster management project for your cluster. And we all know that usage of that has been really, really low. In fact, just anecdotally, when I've talked with customers about it, they've been surprised and to find out that it was even there. They didn't know it was there at all. They didn't realize that it was there. It was an extra step that was buried in the UI in a way that was really hard to find. And so if we do go down the route of putting it in a repository, we'll probably end up having some follow-on epics or issues later to make that easier, more obvious for the user to maybe prompt them as part of the alert dashboard. If they go there and it's not set up, we might prompt them to set it up. I'm a little bit concerned as well about the scalability of that because I do anticipate customers using this for a large number of their projects and even allowing the maintainers of their individual projects to set policies that are specific for the project. So, at a higher level, eventually we're going to be able to manage these things at the group and workspace levels. But if individual maintainers want to add to those policies or extend them for the individual project, they're going to do that at the project level. And so for customers that have 14,000 projects, does that then mean, we would double the number of projects in their GitLab instance if they turned it on for all of those? Reporting tends to be a little bit hard because you then have to go into all of the repos. So anyway, I detailed all of my thoughts there in the notes. I posted them on the issue as well, but I just want to come back to what I said at the beginning. I've got an opinion here, but I don't want to force it on the team. Whichever direction you feel is appropriate, we can take that and we'll create the appropriate follow-on epics and issues to clean up the user experience or, to add things like auditing and approvals later on if needed.
This would be a lot more similar, Sam, to the cluster management project. So you've got that for a group.
Yep.
Just because you're adding more pods to our applications doesn't mean you necessarily need a new project for the cluster configuration. So this would be the same, but there's still balances there to look for both of them. I haven't caught up to the latest on that issue. I did notice that when Mathieu first proposed the implementation steps, it wasn't there, and now it is. So I need to go there and read and see why it came back. Why are we thinking about it?
So if we do it at the group level rather than the project level, that does handcuff us in terms of our permission set because we have customers who want to have the maintainers of the project have access to edit these, but not necessarily another project in the same group that they may not be a maintainer on. And so, you know, a big part of
Okay.
this whole policy thing is getting the permission set right, and giving them that granularity. And I do have concerns if we do that on the group level related to future requirements.
Yeah. So I think that that falls in the future proofing question, because as defined for MVC, it doesn't cover that already, right? Whether it's database or project, they both fit what's in the current requirements. But going down the road and saying the same policy needs to be modified by some people but not others, I think that's expanding on that. Anyway,
Yeah, so there is a requirement in there, just to clarify, we do want to limit the ability to edit an individual project's policy only to the maintainers of that project. So
yeah,
if you're a maintainer on one project in a group and you're not a maintainer on project B in the same group, you should not have the ability to edit policies for project B.
yeah, which would have been done by overriding at the project level, because you're a
Yeah.
maintainer, you'd be able to override at the project level. That's where I was going with that. You have one more comment there before the item that I just added.
Sure. Let's see, which one did I miss?
IV4. I think it's the same. I think you covered in your
Oh,
same
right.
answer.
So yeah, I mean, I know both of them, those two options have their pros and cons. I know working with the database has been painful. Ultimately, I would encourage the team to pick the right technical solution. You know, I'm hopeful that at some point in the future, I don't know how long it's going to be, but we'll make it a little bit easier to get changes made into the database. So, you know, this is something that we're going to be dealing with for a long time. And so if we can pick the option with less long-term technical debt, I believe that's going to pay us dividends in the future, you know, rather than taking perhaps an easier way that's going to be more costly down the road. So, you know, if that helps your decision-making process at all, like let's lean towards the one that's the better technical solution.
It does help. My question is around still around that. So one of the I remember one of the main, or one of the reasons of having orchestration policies, security orchestration policies, is for the use case where a company has, you know, tens or hundreds of projects, and they don't want to go into each one of them setting policies at a per project level, meaning we'll do that at the group level. But an analyzer such as DAST that always requires a project specific setting might not end up benefiting on that unless we associate some other, you know, there's a standard way of defining the URL, the target URL for Dast, and that then all projects implement. They have to implement it, otherwise the policy will execute, but it will fail because you didn't do what you had to do on your side of the thing. So I at least I haven't thought about that before, and I just wanted to throw it out there to other people in case there was an epiphany for them as well. And if you have some thoughts, Sam,
Yeah,
which
so
you do, you're already writing them out.
I do. So we're still figuring out the right solution here. I will note, you know, let's not get too hung up over that right now. It's outside the scope of the MVC. We have a separate
Exactly.
effort for it. And actually, the problem validation that I'm doing right now with Karen is poking at that exact problem, is one of the things that we're in the process of actively researching. So just my
Yeah, that's
initial
cool.
thoughts, like, you know, especially with DAST, like we've got these DAST site profiles and these DAST scan profiles. I think one potential solution would be to specify one of those as a default, you know, or a primary one. And so there, as you mentioned, there would be a prerequisite to have that configured at the project level in order for the group level policy to work. Otherwise it would fail, and we would report on that.
It can be a standard as well, right? Could be an environment variable that's always defined, or it can be when I think GitLab CI has CD has its own predefined variables for the for the application that got deployed. So that could work as well. Like their solutions is just something that I hadn't thought about. But you're right about the scope. We're not letting that stop us. We know it's out of scope, so it doesn't affect at all because we only setting policies at the moment per project. So that problem doesn't matter.
Yeah. So regardless, there's going to have to be some way to specify, you mentioned a lot of options. So I don't know which of those we'll pick, but there'll be some way to specify a default one for the project. And if it's not set, then the scan will have to just fail. But yeah, we're still figuring that one out. All right, Alexander, you've got something to demo for us. This is great. You've had something to demo for us like 4 out of the last 5 group meetings. Maybe it's 5 for 5. I don't know, but I'm loving these demos.
Just doing what I can over here. Yeah, the thing I got in this time is originally, if you went to the threat monitoring, I guess I could demo this myself. I don't have it set up. Don't worry about it. Just trust me. If you went to a project and you went to threat monitoring, if you didn't have an environment set up, there would be an empty state SVG and message being like, hey, there's no environment. Look at these docs, go check it out. But there's a use case with how we're releasing the alerts where a project won't have an environment set up, but will have alerts set up. And so my change is so that now that when you go to threat monitoring without an environment set up, the alerts still displays the tab with saying no alerts to display or alerts if you have any, but then the other tabs are still there, statistics and policies, and then those have the individual empty states.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that change. That's a great improvement. Lindsay, looks like you're up.
Have to find my unmute. So this is less of a planning breakdown topic and more of just a quick question. We don't generally keep issues or create issues specific to documentation, but because we were behind a feature flag for the alert dashboard, we haven't created any documentation yet. This could be very simple and just go to Alexander and Nick Gaskell as far as front-end changes, but I am assuming there's some back-end changes that need to be documented from the API perspective. Is that correct? Tiago? Guess I'm looking at.
I was typing because I think the link is incorrect. It's pointed to Jira.
Oh, my mistake.
We can fix that.
Sorry, I was creating both these at the same time. I'll get that.
But yes, you're right, and we spoke about this earlier today. I don't know the answer. I know that there are lots of backend specific things, and I know there will be some front-end information to share as documentation. So I'm good with that. I'm good with the starting with that sort of division of labor, so to speak.
Sorry, I missed that. I was fixing the link. So there will be, you believe there will be back-end documentation. Should we create 2 out of this? Is just an unusual circumstance.
I think so. It is, yeah. Yeah, so just to clarify, documentation is part of the delivery. So as we do back-end and front-end issues, we should be doing them, for reasons that didn't happen now. So I think it's okay to go and create back-end and front-end issues as part of the Alexander. You're making faces like what I said it was a surprise. Maybe I'm wrong.
I need to read the documentation around feature flags and like how we would hide the documentation. I guess we could hide it just behind the feature flag as well.
Or maybe that's the exception, right? That I didn't catch on. Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons.
I immediately went to the docs handbook and started like searching for things. So we'll come back to that.
How do I prove this guy wrong?
Okay, well, that helps.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I'll have to check as well. I know that stuff with feature flag has been documented before, and it's called out. Hey, this is behind a feature flag.
Got it.
So we know that's true of the front end changes. Back-end documentation is usually very different around API updates. Are you saying, Tiago, that you believe that the back-end documentation updates were being done as per normal when we're not behind a feature flag and should have been released or updated with the MRs themselves?
So maybe that's what we want to do in the future. We will, if it's feature flag or not, we'll do them anyway. And then when you're removing the feature flag, all you need to do is remove the mention of the feature flag from documentation, but the documentation would be ready.
I was
But
asking more specifically about this use case though.
Right.
Right.
Well, there's no documentation. We need to go and write it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not, it
So as far
hasn't
as you
been
know,
done.
none of the back-end
No.
API level documentation has been completed with the back-end work. That was my question. I was just posed very poorly. Sorry.
I don't know if it's none of it. I know that some of it for sure.
But
So there's work to be done.
but none of the backend changes are behind a feature flag anyways. So
okay.
that's also that.
I'll get back to you.
All right. Well, I've corrected the link to the issue, and if we do need to split it into front end, back end, we can. It's currently in 13.9. Obviously, we want to get this out along with the MVC. So thanks. That was my topic. Alexander, back to you.
Cool. I just wanted to emphasize again what I posted in the Slack channel, just for putting it here. It seems that Cass is out in staging, and Tiago has bravely nominated himself to try to set that up for the staging project that we have, that with the feature flag turned on. If you need
everybody took a step back. I forgot.
if you need me, like the feature flag can be turned on for any project in either staging or production. So if you want to turn it on for other projects to test it or whatever.
I don't see a reason not to turn it on for staging as a whole. It doesn't affect anything that doesn't specifically use it, and it's just going to be more work for us to do piecemeal every project that we want to play with. So
I will
anybody
say
disagree?
there are a couple of front end issues that are not completed yet, that
Okay.
we might want to hold off for. One is the issue that shows an alert to the user when they haven't installed Cass or the agent. That's not in yet. It's in review. And then
I think that's okay. Sam,
well,
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just for testing and staging, I don't think we have to wait for that one, right? Probably
Okay.
wait to release the whole feature, but the staging is safe, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then
I appreciate the concern, and Alexander, I appreciate the concern. It's a good call out, but the feature flag would be for staging only. When this goes to production, it would still be behind the feature flag.
Right, definitely. Okay, cool. And then the other one is that we aren't both alerts, operations alerts, and threat monitoring alerts currently will get both alerts still, and that MR is in review and was waiting for Cass to get released. So I'll start pushing that forward though. But that also doesn't seem like a blocker for turning it on for staging. So
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. This is great. Sooner we can start doing some end-to-end testing where we're testing both the back end and the front end together, the better off we're going to be.
Cool. All right, let's do it. I'll create an action item for me to turn on this feature flag for all of staging then.
All right, I thought I was going to do that. You happy to do it?
No, you can do it. It's fine.
No, you can do it because I still got calls for a little bit, so I wouldn't be able to do it for another hour or so. So.
Well, it's actually end of my day.
All right. So it'll be ready for you tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Way to backpedal.
Way to take advantage of the time zones.
Oh yeah. Oof, look at the time. Jeez.
I added one last topic that just came up in my mind when we were talking about that last thing was that after talking to Sam, he made a really good point that load testing would be very useful in this alerts dashboard scenario, because we do have the potential to make great harm on our customers' production environments if we're not aware of how maybe a huge spike in alerts might affect their systems. So I don't have any experience with that at GitLab. I have in the past, but I don't know how to apply it here. So this seemed like a really good case where we could pull in our stable counterpart and test, which, despite something that was mentioned in an earlier call, we do have a stable counterpart and test. Her name is Vinci, and I know she hasn't been very involved yet, but we'll start to take small steps to get her more involved. So I've got a one-on-one with her later this week. She's already replied to the app mention in the Epic saying that she has availability and will be able to assist with this. So it's not a blocker for getting the MVC out in 13.9. Sam has made that clear to me, but it's something that we want to know how to do, and the earlier we can get some reasonable load testing done, the better.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding from Zamir is that the way the Kubernetes agent works, it should be throttling these alerts, but should be throttling doesn't mean that it is throttling. And, you know, you can never be too certain when you're dealing with a production Kubernetes environment.
I feel like their tagline. It doesn't sound like a good marketing jingle.
Agreed. Second, that's our new motto.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today, and we'll meet again next week.
Bye, friends.